Now, if you are thinking about buying an 8-wheel drive Argo, there's a couple of things you need to keep an eye on. One of them is keeping your chains oiled. I use spray pack chain oil because I didn't like the idea of paying for an expensive auto oiler. The other thing you need to keep an eye on is these auto tensioners up here. They can end up cockeyed like this and off to one side. You need to make sure they come up nice and straight. You also need to make sure your bearings keep greased very well. In particular, the outer bearings, particularly if you've been in the water. So I'm keeping an eye. I have over greased these in the past, and the grease does squish out a little bit on the inside because the seal is a little bit off. Gotta be careful. I'd use a hand grease gun and do that gently. But yeah, from time to time you need to get in here. I think the factory recommends about every 8 running hours you need to oil the chains. I usually do it every couple of runs because I do some high speed runs with this. And by high speed I mean about 40 k's an hour. That's about as fast as these things will go. Now the way I do chain oiling is really simple. I spray along all the accessible parts of the chain, and then I roll it along the ground a little bit, and I grease the bit or oil the bits that I couldn't get to before. Pretty simple. Now you might notice this piece of string in the middle here. I'll show you what that's for when I can find a way to hold my phone. And you get your hands dirty doing this, but our string goes under and we pull up so that our chain tensioner adjusts properly. There we go. Easy done. Okay, when it comes to the front, these are the ones you do want to pay attention to, and these are the ones you will hear slapping on this cross member. So this is where our piece of string is handy. Keep in mind the inner channel on here can get stuck, so these adjusters may not always come up properly. Getting oil in there is the bit where you need to roll things forward. This is a 2019 Frontier. They don't have front tensioners, so you either got to put a half link in or just change the chains on the front. We are going to adjust these up. The other bit, these get dry very quick and they get slack very quick. You can adjust the slack with these 2 bolts down here. I probably need to do this soon. And generally you need to use a piece of paper to keep oil off these chains, or off the discs rather. You oil the chains, put your piece of paper between them. I'll demonstrate that in a minute. Now this is where you shove your piece of paper. Doing this in the wind is very difficult, but basically you do this a little bit at a time. Pull your piece of paper out, roll it round, and then get a bit more chain. It's a little bit hard to do this two-handed, so you didn't quite catch all that. Alright, so this takes about 4 shots of pushing it forward to get all these bits of chains exposed. And this is often the most neglected bit of the chain, and it's the one that works hardest than everything else, so definitely worth keeping this one oiled. And there's one on each side, by the way. Now another little overlooked bit is junk building up behind your bung plugs. Kind of important because it means stuff isn't going to drain out the back where it should. You end up with problems like we've got up the front. Up the front we have standing water in here. We don't want that. That makes things rust. And remember to keep grease up to them. Usually a couple of pumps with a hand pump till it starts to feel firm. That's all you need. Now we're going to take a couple of minutes to do the outer bearings. You will notice these holes right here. These need to be top dead center, and because the wheels are chain driven, for the most part, unless you've skipped a tooth, all these should be in roughly the same position. Now, in the field and in the wind, this is hard to show. There we are at the top, and in behind here, there's a grease nipple right on the top of that bearing there. You take your grease gun with your hose on it, shove it through that hole onto the nipple, give it about 4 or 5 pumps of grease. Okay, one thing to check while you're in here is take a look at your brake pads. I have seen some people put these in backwards too. They still look pretty good on both sides. If these are not working right, you're not going to be able to steer properly. And you can push left and right, you can see them close a little bit. These have 2 hydraulic cylinders in there. We're going to check our brake fluid in a minute. But these are your adjusters, by the way. That adjusts how much take up there is on the brakes. Obviously when you operate handbrakes, it does it with a cable and it pushes both at once. By the way, we're in the top here. You can see the inner bearing, there's a grease nipple there. And the other one is a right angle nipple. You get it from behind the firewall. One thing I've never done in all the time I've owned this is check the brake fluid reservoir. It is in there, but it's a bit of a pain to get to. I don't even know how to check it. I think it's this little sight glass in the side here that I can probably see. I'll have to stick my phone in here, have a look. Don't know, do I have fluid in that, guys? I can't really tell. Now, I've heard rumours about these sight glasses cracking and falling out. The hexagonal shape on the top of that tells me that this one is removable and replaceable. One thing to check is your handbrake. It pulls up on these cables as an independent bypass, which is important in case you ever lose these. The two main fluids to keep an eye on in here are your gearbox oil, which should be between those two notches. If you fill it too much, it just pisses out the top here and goes all over everything like it did with mine. Engine oil, you check from here. We should be between those two dots, preferably on the slightly higher side, which is where we're at. Now, fun fact, this is a 2019 Argo Frontier. It doesn't have a fuel pump. It relies on manifold vacuum to pull it back up. If this is out like that, or if this is missing, you won't be able to start it. It won't create any vacuum and it won't pull fuel through. So this has been a windy little video about some of the basic maintenance you'll be looking at if you get one of these 8-wheelers. It is a bit of work, but compared to getting unbogged, if you take something like that in the same places, you're certainly going to be a lot less work oiling a few chains. Certainly best, as always, you do this as a preventative maintenance routine. Do it before you need to do it, a little bit ahead of time. In any case, I hope it was an interesting video. I'll see you all next time.